Ladies and gentlemen, we are in for a real treat tonight because on Sportswire Radio, we get a chance to speak about a new up and coming company. And when you think about professional wrestling and really one of those legacy places, North Carolina is the hotbed of professional wrestling. You think about the NWA, you think about Flair. Well, forget about all that because we have a new company that's going to have their first show coming up this Saturday, inauguration. No, not a presidential inauguration. It's going to be for Redemption Championship Wrestling. And our guest is going to talk about all of that and some. He's going to talk about his huge match, the entire card. He's even going to talk about his own career, which has taken him from places such as, well, a company called ACW, a company we've even done a lot of work with in the past, and we'll probably do a lot more. Cheap Clue here coming up on Sportswire Radio very soon, in BW, and another company also in North Carolina called VTW. Our guest needs no further introduction, but because it's the first time he's on here on Sportswire Radio, and many of his peers, his colleagues, his opponents, and friends have gotten that same introduction, he has to get that introduction that everybody else has gotten. So with that, without further ado here on the Sports Report, number one global sports show from Redemption Championship Wrestling. They call him Sinnick. My friend, how are you?
Wow. What an introduction. Damn.
Well,
Woo.
I've been sick the past 3 days, but like Batman, when he puts his cape on, I'm going to be ready. You even said, well, do you want to reschedule? Like I said, no rescheduling, no days off here on Sportswire Radio. I heard you on a podcast a couple of days ago, and I'm like, we're going to give him the proper show, the proper introduction to Redemption Championship Wrestling that it deserves, my friend.
Tom, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be on here. I've heard nothing but amazing things about the show as advertised.
Well, the
You,
check is in the mail. The check is certainly in the mail. But
you
it's
bring,
not about me tonight, my friend. It is about you and a company in North Carolina, which I had stated, called Redemption Championship Wrestling. And I'll put all the links up here shortly on Sportswire Radio. But for those that are listening and watching here, let's talk about it because we got a huge show coming up. And it's the inauguration show, literally. It's the inauguration show coming up here this Saturday. So for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, what can we expect here from Redemption Championship Wrestling?
well, Tom, there's so many things that we could expect. And inauguration all starts with us crowning our first ever RCR American Heavyweight Championship. We got Dangerous E, Corey Etzel going one-on-one with unrefined Jacob Ryan. And these are two heavyweights that are going to clash. They're going to beat the hell out of each other. If you like those Gunther Sheamus matches of hammering down, that's the kind of match that you're going to see. And I don't want to spoil too much, but
don't spoil anything because at this point I do so many of these with so many of your peers and your colleagues and your contemporaries. I'll get a message that said, Tom Bryce, what did Sinnick say tonight? So whatever you do, don't spoil the outcomes. You can talk about it though after the show airs, but certainly don't spoil anything.
all I'm going to say is that you are going to see action immediately. You are going to get the hype immediately. Anybody who walks through those doors, the first 50 people are going to get a limited edition RCR. I'm going to try to make sure I get this word right. Commemorative
I'm
Keep,
glad you said it, not me, because I'll screw it up at this point. Because I'm a legend for that. So I'm glad that you're saying it, not me.
I took it nice and easy. So it's gonna have the date on it and everything.
Okay.
And if you're number 51, you should have been number 50 because you got to get.
Well, 5150 was the acronym for the criminally insane. So you literally, if you are going to be number 51, you are going to be insane for missing out that you weren't the 50th person to get that. But obviously, Jacob, I know very well because I've seen him in VTW. You certainly squared off with him. And this is a real heavy hitter match. And obviously, going right off the top, I mean, this is a match that I think is going to warm things up here. And then how big is it to kind of have these two heavyweights here for a first show?
It's freaking huge. It's huge. Um,
That I know very well. That I know very well.
Trust me, I'd love to be going for the heavyweight championship myself. It's not up to me how that was determined. I am in a huge match. I'm actually going to be. I'm advertised for the main event. It's an inauguration brawl, but this is going to be our heavyweight championship. This is the top of the line. This is where you make that star that night. You have that opportunity to be that guy, and I can't call it right now. I can't say 40 this person, 60 that person. You're just gonna have to wait and see, because just as much as the fans are wondering, so are the wrestlers.
Oh, absolutely, no question about that. And I almost feel like, and we'll talk about a few of the other matches here in a second, and we'll run down the card. I have some comments already. I'll say hello to people here shortly. But I mean, how big is it then that for these guys and everybody else competing? This is the first show. I always say this to people, Sinnick, and tell me your thoughts. The first impressions are always the impression that people remember the most. It's almost like that's it. Anything else, you could get it wrong, you can get it right afterwards, but that first impression is the most important one. So does that give not only in this match, but maybe everybody else that we're going to see coming up here this Saturday, that extra incentive and that extra motivation, because this is the first impression. This is really the one that people are going to remember for a long time.
It gives us the motivation. It gives us the drive, and it gives us no choice but to come up at our very best. There are no failures here. There's no option to fail. You have to bring your absolute best, because when it comes to professional wrestling, sports entertainment, professional wrestling, whichever way you cut it, it's all built on moments. And what we plan to do is leave people with a moment, not maybe just one, but multiple moments where they could go home and wake up the next day, get on social media, talk to your neighbor, talk to a friend, however you do it, and say, I just heard about this new company. I was there. It was crazy. And they tell their tale and they explain the moments of everything that happened that night.
Oh, no question about that. And I'm very excited about the card itself. And we've put in the banners. And I can see even the dog is so excited also, because even the dogs are certainly ready to go here this Saturday. You can follow Redemption Championship Wrestling on all their pages here on social media. And another match that, we were speaking just a few minutes ago, that this could be a main event in almost any other place. Zach Daniels and Tyler Aiken. I mean, this is a match. Listen, I feel like I've seen this match before in some other company. I mean, this is a match. Another match that could easily be a main event. I mean, this could easily be one of those matches you label Sinnick as almost a show stealer. I mean, talk about this match and what we can expect coming up here this Saturday.
Well, I hate to correct you, but it's actually going to be, and it's the Daniels part that got you. So it's actually going to be Tyler Aiken, the Gooba, and Luca Daniels. Zach Daniels is on the card. He's going to be going up against Aaron Jones. So when it comes to the Gooba, Tyler Aiken, and Luca Daniels, Luca has been featured on.
Oh, I know who Luca Daniels is. Yep, I've seen him before. Sure. Unfortunately, you got two Daniels there, and now I feel like I should have had Jack Daniels, even though I don't drink Jack Daniels. But I guess that does actually happen there. Sure.
I am trying to think. So we're talking about match number 2.
We're just talking about the card itself here. I mean, obviously, just some of the different matches here, just for the audience here, hearing about Redemption Championship Wrestling here. And obviously, again, Tyler Aiken is a guy I know very well from VTW, certainly somebody You've obviously seen a lot in that company. And also, again, Luka Daniels is a guy a lot of people know, especially if you're a fan of independent wrestling. And this is a match that's probably going to be another one of those show stealers, and a match that, if you're going to go on a bathroom break, make sure it's after this match. Not that you want to go to a bathroom break altogether, but this is a match really that could just be, again, a show stealer and a match that people, I'm sure, are going to, when they see it, are going to feel like just on this match alone, you've got your money's worth.
Hey, I think when intermission hits, everybody is going to be rushing for the bathroom because they have their seats, maybe to buy some merchandise, and they'll be rushing back to their seats, trying to fight back through the door when we come back to the matches. So yeah, we have the Gooba, Tyler Aiken, who I know very well.
Yes, I knew that. That I knew very well.
We've been mixing it up. We're talking about the Bad Sons, Ecstatic, and Tyler Aiken.
Legion and the Bad Sons have some history. That I knew.
Whatever the Legion looks like on any given day, but it's always me.
Sure, and then with a match like, let's talk about Luka Daniels. Obviously, Luka's name speaks for itself, and when you have someone like this on your bill, what does that do for a new company with a guy that has been on national television, where he's been in homes of millions of people, and a casual wrestling fan, and goes, you know what? I've seen this guy before. I've seen him. Maybe I don't know where or remember where, but I've seen him on my TV screen. What does that do for a company like yours to have him here?
So we got contacted by Luka, and first of all, let me just say he is just an absolute superstar in how he conducts himself. He is so professional, and he is extremely humble. We got contacted by Luka, and he starts kind of going off on what he's done, and I went, Luka, I know who you are. And you can turn on the TV on any given night and not even realize you saw Luka. But I'm at the point where it's like, where's Waldo when I turn on Raw, when I turn on freaking WrestleMania and he's escorting Dominic Mysterio down on the paddy wagon? It's where's Luka? And he just made a small cameo in the show Heels.
And because I know everyone's talking about on Twitter, unfortunately for fans of it, the show actually got canceled. So there's obviously that out there in itself. Sure.
I've watched Luka's Georgia stuff. I've watched his Carolina stuff, and I'm looking on Facebook and I'm watching him just collect championships. I'm watching him just be an absolute star.
Sure.
And he's adding star power to the show, but he's also not treating this like a little side gig. He has been promoting the absolute hell out of it, and I know he's excited to get in the ring with Gooba. And I don't think that he should take Tyler Aiken lightly, because when it comes to Tyler, like he's not just a VTW guy. He's gotten himself all around the independents, and he has done a lot for himself too. I was there when he won the ACCW Apple City Championship, and the entire crowd was on their feet screaming, "Goo!"
No, he's electrifying. This is why I said this match would be a show stealer, and that's why this is a match here. You could put this anywhere on the card, and you're going to get your money's worth here. I promise I'll get to comments in a second, but let me ask you a question in a different way about Luka, and tell me your thoughts, because obviously you got some guys on here that have name recognition, other guys maybe in terms of, let's say, wrestling in a company like this, maybe not as much experience. When you have a guy like Luka that has been in front of millions of homes, what advice do you ask him? What do you maybe expect from him in terms of where do we go from here after this? Because there's a lot of young and hungry talent on this show. Obviously, you've been around a little bit, but there's some other guys here that could probably use that advice, that locker room advice from a guy like Luka in terms of what he's done in this business. So what do you expect maybe to learn from him going forward, from being in a locker room with him? Talk to me about that for the audience.
I'm not going to lie to you right now. That question actually just gave me goosebumps.
I ask these millions of times to people, because I get a lot of guys come on, and for me it's like nothing, but I appreciate that. But I mean, the floor is yours on it.
I literally just got goosebumps in that question. I all I've been thinking about was meeting this dude in person and saying, what can I do next to take that next step? You know, how do you get those extra slots on television? Because I think we both know that it could be any day now that we see him debut on an NXT. We see him
Sure.
up on Rampage and literally climb up from there, and then he's the very next guy on Monday Night Raw. We don't know.
Sure, I know. There's no question. He reminds me of very similar to a guy that I've interviewed a couple of times. Different type of wrestler though, but has that kind of household following. A guy named Vito Fratelli, who you've been for whatever reason, a guy called you out and had you in the same breath as him. But Vito Fratelli, yep, the Sicilian powerhouse. A man I've interviewed twice, and he wrestled Alexander Hammerstone twice, and both times he was the MLW World Champion, TJP. And Luca's got that same kind of mindset and kind of where you see him go. So there's no question that I could see where you're going from with that. Let me say hello to some people here before I get to some more of the matches here. I want to say hello to my friend Ron out there from the state of Pennsylvania wearing a Green Bay Packers hat. Good evening, gentlemen. I want to say hello to Skulls, the Soul Hunter from California. He says going evening, gentlemen. He meant to say good evening, gentlemen. Badass shirt. I guess what kind of shirt are you wearing, by the way? I can't see from. Oh, there you go. Okay, well I can see why he says that. I think you know who this individual is. I want to say hello to him. He was my guest not too long ago. I'm sure you heard of him, right? You heard this guy? You heard of him? Yeah,
Yeah.
I figured that, right? This guy is a class act. I had the pleasure of facing him, run it back. Anything you want to say about this individual? Obviously, this is an individual that's certainly an interesting man. He's a colorful character. He certainly has done a lot in a company I'm sure I'll get to in a little while. But anything you want to say about this individual? Because I know he'll definitely have a long memory.
Yeah, you just hit a keyword, color. So
Yeah.
the last time I saw Mr. Cyrus, me and him, World Extreme Championship, DBW,
Yes. Yes.
he wrapped me up in a fence so I
I
couldn't
think we
move.
spoke about that on Sportswire actually a couple of weeks ago. I think I did actually. I think I spoke about that with him.
Oh, I'm Tarantinoing this right now. So he wrapped me up in a fence, and it's kind of that. I bet you're probably wondering how I got here.
No, I interviewed somebody about 3 months ago who actually went through a fence actually in another company, and I forget what part of Dakota. It was either North Dakota or South Dakota now. So no, I'm not surprised. You're not the first person. So go ahead.
Fences and doors in pro wrestling are getting more and more popular right now. So we actually went at it, I believe, 2 times for the World Extreme Championship. Both times I've come up short. Absolutely, I'd love to run it back with Cyrus. Every single time, it is a brutal, hardcore fight, and we're not having a match. We are having a fight.
Well, that's kind of how he is. That's who he is. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what he does. I mean, he likes to basically pull it in the ring and he pulls no punches. That's how he was here and that's how he is in the ring because I've seen him because he's back in DBW now. So why am I not surprised you said those things?
So in that time, I did what I did, but I still was not yet professionally trained. So I started to take a few steps back from that hardcore style of wrestling because I did really like it when I was doing it.
Sure.
But that last match between me and him, I bled so much. It's on YouTube if anybody wants to go and search it. I didn't go by Sinnick. I went by Jason Atlas at that time. And that is Jason Atlas versus Cyrus. I believe it was Judgment Day.
Yeah, I
And
feel like I might have either watched the match at some point or I spoke about it with Cyrus. I feel like it's definitely come up in passing, no question that this is definitely in a past life you had.
oh yeah, it's the most I ever bled. But I just I decided once I came out to the Carolinas, I think I was still living in New York at the time. I started training. I met a man named George South, and I never really looked back. But now I'm looking forward, and if the It Factor Cyrus wants to run it back, I'm sure we could find a place and a time.
Well, I tell you what I do like real quick, and I'll get to more comments, and I want to run down the matches here. What I like is that not only has DBW evolved, but you've evolved. I mean, DBW in a past life was kind of what you just said, this company that did things differently. And now they've evolved into a company that I think is very reputable in terms of going into a direction that I think is going to build the company into continued, I think, new heights. And you're obviously going about it in a professional way, which is very similar to what Redemption Championship Wrestling has done. So maybe on a bigger stage, that would certainly be something I and many others would like to see. I have a few comments here. Let me get to Skulls again. Sinnick reminds me of Hurricane Helms without the mask. I guess maybe you've gotten that before, maybe not. I don't know.
Gregory Helms, Shane Helms, whatever you want to call him. Just stand back.
Stand back. It's time. We also, Ron here wants to say, will we see someone get chopped? And he also wants to know, has your body been slammed onto thumbtacks?
Once, never again.
Okay, well, we're
Oh,
going
that's
to
it.
move on. I just want to move on from that. I want to say hello to my friend, Mr. Michael Blackheart, because his father-in-law is actually the referee for XCW Shelbyville, and I'll have XCW Shelbyville coverage coming up Thursday night, 10 o'clock Eastern time with Chris Jones of EBW. So I say hello to Mr. Blackheart. Mr. Blackheart says it's his dream one day to be on Sportswire, but we'll have to see. Never say never, as Vince McMahon says. But let's come back to the card here, because I have another match here, and Von Miller and Michael Gabriel. I mean, this is another intriguing match here. So let's talk about this match for the audience, what we can expect here, because I feel like these are also two guys that I've seen before, and also two people that I have no doubt that are going to continue as to why this is going to be a company that we're going to see for a long time ahead.
Before we, and trust me, I can't wait to talk about that match. But before we do that, I just want to check, and maybe we could get some help from the people commenting. I want to make sure my audio is good. I just had a message from my wife, who was, of course, watching as well.
Okay.
She said my audio sounded like really low, hard for me to hard to hear me. So I just want to make sure I could be heard as I'm on here.
But, okay, yeah. If people want to do that, that's certainly fine, because I unfortunately can't do that because it'll echo. If I do that, I can do it through my internet radio, but I have a feeling it will echo and I won't be able to hear you. So that's the most important part. So yeah, if somebody does want to check in, and I have some people here on YouTube, let us know, and we'll see if we can fix anything. So certainly go ahead on that.
Yeah, I didn't have a microphone, but I wanted to be as prepared as I could be.
I actually do have a comment. My friend, Mr. Zero Deus from WCE, says your audio is fine. So there you go, sir. You may continue.
Zero, thank you so much. And let's roll on to Michael Gabriel versus Von Miller. Perfect. Got two confirmations. Michael Gabriel, I just met him at School of Morton.
And okay, all right. I know what that is. Okay, go ahead.
Me and Michael Gabriel, my first time there, we're mixing it up. And Michael Gabriel, he's very cult leader-like, carries this book around called the Book of Zion. He's kind of got that whole far-fetched thing. He's trying to make everybody believe in it. He wants people to follow him. Somewhere down the line over there in Tennessee, he's been trying to get Von Miller to be a believer. Von Miller not really going for it, I believe. I think that Michael Gabriel is going to try to beat it out of him, and Von Miller probably going to show him, not only am I not joining, but I'm about to show up and show out and leave you in the dust. There's only one way to find out, and that's to be there between these.
So it's almost, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like a contrast of two different wrestlers, two different personalities, two different ends. So this match is going to be really personal here. This might be one of the more personal matches on the card here, I would think.
Yeah, oh, that's a really good way to put it. Yeah, this sounds like somebody's trying to force somebody to do something against their will. Like, what's more personal than that? You're trying to make me believe something that I don't want to believe. I'm doing nothing but rebelling against it. These two are going to have a serious problem, and it might not end here. This might be only one of many times we see these two do this dance. And these guys are both very young, so you know that they have such a future ahead of them. All we're going to see is more things develop out of this as these two wrestlers develop themselves.
I feel like these are the matches that in some ways could very well be the most intriguing, because you have a feeling that this is not going to end on September the 30th. This is going to be a match that could continue into the months, into the years, even because you've got somebody here that wants to basically force his point of view, his perspective on somebody else, his opponent, and his opponent in Von Miller wants nothing to do with it. So you've obviously got this total clash, and you have a feeling here that this is only the beginning. These guys are just getting started.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's exactly what this is. These guys are just getting started. And if Von Miller breaks free of whatever Michael Gabriel is going for, who's his next victim? Who's Michael Gabriel going to try to go after next? And who's Von Miller going to try to climb the ladder up to beat to maybe to win a championship? Because here's another thing. The RCR Heavyweight Championship is only going to be the first championship crowned. Nothing has been said yet about what other champions might be crowned going forward in further upcoming shows. We don't know. One of these guys could be a first inaugural champion themselves. Everything's new.
So again, it goes back to my point a few minutes ago that this is obviously first impressions count. There's a lot of motivations here, and guys know that every match counts. Every win, every pinfall, every disqualification, count out, whatever happens, it all goes into something almost. And I'll come back to the rest of the card, but I almost then have to ask, in a way, will we expect to see monthly shows from the company, bi-monthly shows? I mean, obviously September 30th is right around the corner, but is there kind of, if you can't tell me, don't tell me, but do you think that there'll be regular shows here from Redemption Championship Wrestling?
I can answer that question all throughout the rest of the year.
Oh, excellent. That's excellent news. We look forward to talking about that on Sportswire then.
Yep. And we are going straight into October. It will be October 14th. The
Wow,
very
you guys are actually right off. If you would have told me October 28th, I would have said, all right, that makes sense to four weeks, and then you're gonna go right after Thanksgiving. Okay, fine. I got all that November 25th. That's fine. But you're going 2 weeks, literally 2 weeks after this show. I mean, that's like quite a quick time. Time flies there, basically.
I'm telling you right now, Tom, that after we finish this inauguration, October 1st, the very day after, a flyer is going to pop up, and it's going to be for a brewery, and it's going to be in my hometown in Gastonia, North Carolina.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen, we are dropping bombs here left and right. Not only does Redemption Championship Wrestling have their first show September the 30th called Inauguration, they're going to have another show coming up here in Gastonia, North Carolina on October the 14th. And that's why you're going to want to follow them, all of their social media channels, including YouTube at Redemption Championship Wrestling, Facebook, Redemption Championship Wrestling, also TikTok, Redemption Wrestling, Facebook as well, Redemption Championship Wrestling, and my name, if you may not know by now, I'm going to tell it to you anyway, or I'm going to tell it to me even if you know my name anyway. It is the Reverend Tom Bryce, the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station, and your voice of all wrestling. And if you like what you hear from us here on Sportswire Radio, give us a sub on YouTube at Sportswire Radio, Twitter at Thomas Bryce 2017, and on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our content on sportnarium.com/player. We're an internet radio station which plays podcasts from all over the world. We also have live DJs that play music. We also have shows from different types of genres when it comes to sports, wrestling, news, you name it. We play about 15 different shows. So if you have a podcast out there, you'd like to stream it, we do that free of charge. We cover all the fees for you. We let you go to a larger audience that you've never been before to, whether it's on Spotify, iTunes, you name it. We give you a chance to be heard around the world. We do that here on sportnarium.com/player. And I'll be back here again Thursday night, 10 o'clock Eastern time with Chris Jones of EBW. I'll be back here Friday afternoon, 3 o'clock Eastern time, 8 o'clock British Standard Time with James Barris, the owner of Cutlery Championship Wrestling. He's got a show also on the 30th called No Excuses, which we spoke about last week on Sportswire Radio with Hybrid, who was the former CCW Underground Champion of the world. He's going to talk about his match that Mr. Barris is going to certainly have a front chair in, which Hybrid versus Walker Wall Street. We're also going to talk a lot about the Tribal Cheese, who Hybrid also spoke quite a bit of. So you're not going to want to miss what Mr. Barris has to say. But in the meantime, right now, now. We are here with Sinnick himself, who is talking about the huge show once again, September the 30th, Redemption Championship Wrestling inauguration. Yes, we're going to continue to promote this throughout the night. Now, let's talk about the other Daniels, Zach Daniels against Aaron Jones. Now, Zach Daniels, I actually saw you in the ring with on VTW Extra not too long ago. And Aaron Jones is a man that I've actually seen also in DBW, and I've also seen him to be very, very established in VTW. Now, this is another match that probably in DBW and VTW would easily be a main event, but in RCR, who really knows where this is going to take place on the card? So let's talk about this match, as I've got this match finally right when it comes to Daniels. So, sir, for the audience here, let's talk about two men I know very well, and Mr. Zach Daniels against Aaron Jones.
Zach Daniels and Aaron Jones, baby. Oh, that's one I'm gonna be sitting at my merch table for, and I'm not gonna miss a second.
Are you sure you're not gonna try to run in that match? Because you got history there. I know with these guys.
I got history, but as far as okay, so we really need to go back a bit, man, because my match with Zach Daniels was 8 years in the making.
You know, I saw that on VTW Extra TV, and you had the hands up with 8, and it was like, I was wondering, are we going to see a video package, a promo package? And it was like, there was kind of like interludes of it, but then we saw kind of after the match, there was this kind of, I guess, handshake. Zach finally put his hand out, but 8 years in the making. I mean, very rare to finally have something that has been that long in the making and then to be the match what it was.
You know, when I stuck my hand out, I didn't know if I was going to get a kick in the balls, a punch in the face, or a handshake.
I thought you were going to get kicked, to be honest. I was looking at Zach. He didn't want to put his hand up right away. He was mad about the outcome, and I was kind of waiting for the kick, and he didn't kick you. He shook your hand and gave you a kind of begrudging hug.
He was mad about the outcome. I was shocked about the outcome. It's not that I doubted myself. It's just that I can't believe that I was able to pull it off.
Sure.
8 years ago, I looked up to Zach. I'd watch him in VTW.
He's been a world champion. Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. VTW at a young age. I was in a company called UWE. We used to do crossover promotions.
Yep.
The history goes back so far. And then you get to Aaron Jones. Aaron is like an uncle to my son. Me and Aaron are extremely close.
I saw Aaron wrestle Roland Havoc in DBW not too long ago. Know Aaron very well, sure.
And I know those guys are not done there, by the way. I know that there's some other stuff that'll start popping up soon, and I can't wait to watch it myself because I'm gonna shut up about how much I care about both these guys and talk about how much these guys are gonna beat the shit out of each other. They're no strangers to, throwing a couple potatoes at each other, and they are just going to go in. This is going to be just like who won't stay down.
I think the same thing about this match because these guys know each other so well. So in a way, this is actually going to be maybe the most physical matches in some sense that you're going to have on the card, Sinnick, because these guys it's almost like they could finish each other's sentence.
They could finish each other's sentence, but who knows if they can finish the match? Because when it comes to Aaron, whatever he's going to try to do, Zach knows it. Zach's going to see it coming and vice versa. So what are you going to do different to beat the other guy and have him actually stay down and have had enough without hurting his ego and not want to come back for more?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. It's an interesting point. I would have to think, though, that these guys in a different stage, though, maybe in a way are going to want to prove something further because, yes, these guys have been world champions. These guys certainly know each other better than anybody on this card in terms of the prospective match. But maybe in a way, do you feel like that these guys are going to want to prove a point that they've been where they are and they're kind of here to stay and they're the big boys that we can expect in a company like this basically in the ongoing future? Talk to me about your thought on that.
That's a really good question. I want to know that they're here to stay. I want to know that they want to be top guys because I want to be a top guy and I want to be standing right across from them one day. This is the beginning. I keep on saying that. This is the inauguration. This is the start of it all. There's so much down the line that we can't even see yet. And that's what makes it so hard to call any of this. These guys, they have known each other for so long. They've done this for so long. They might be ahead of the game. If they want to team up and try to take over, they got a shot at that. There's so much that can happen.
Well, you might not want to give the guys ideas. You don't, like you said, you don't want to spoil things. We know people are going to listen to these things. So I'm sure that
There's
Mr.
no
Daniels,
spoiling. There's no spoiling. There's only guessing because your guess, the viewers' guess, the fans' guess, they're all as good as mine.
Fair. No, I think that's a fair point. Certainly, I'm going to get to your match very shortly, and I want to say hello to this person. Hashtag standards to you. So give me the comment and the meaning toward hashtag standards to you. What's the meaning here for this? Am I missing something or what?
I think that.
Oh, I think is that Mr. I'm trying to.
Yep.
I got. I'm looking at it here. Okay. Well, you want to finish the sentence? I'm looking at it here before I get into the next match, which I really want to talk about actually because it's another man that you have history with. What is it with this card here? First of all, sir, that you have got history with almost everybody on this card here in some way or another. I mean, I just find that so fascinating. But speaking of that, we've got Ecstatic. Ecstatic is going to be in the ring with a guy that I finally figured out how to pronounce his name. So listening to, I feel like I was back in English class, hooked on phonics, and there's a reason why, because this guy has got such a following. I know that you're going to disagree with me on the following, why he has the following, but he apparently owns 1,000 banks. He's a CEO. We're talking about a man you've actually wrestled for a championship or two in the past, and that is Mr. Moses Ireton. And Mr. Ireton, the Ireton CEO, is going to be in the ring against Ecstatic. And so for those that are listening and watching, what can we expect in this match?
Are you familiar with the Pac-Man symbols on something is greater than something else?
Of course, yes. I've obviously played Pac-Man as a kid, sure. Okay, give me the catch.
So, Ecstatic, as the relaunch of VTW came out, I gave him the best that I could on that very day, and Ecstatic had my number and he beat me. I have beaten Moses Ireton. I am hoping that Ecstatic beats the brakes off of Moses Ireton because I'm sure that there's going to come a time that me and Moses can finally finish what we started. And I'm sure we'll get to that on some kind of degree. But Ecstatic, I see you. Thank you for telling me I have standards. I know Tom. I don't know if I'm pointing in the right direction. I know Tom has standards, and I know you have the standards to beat Moses Ireton and his whole 1,000 banks bullshit.
He's got 1,000 banks, though. I mean, he's going to be a tough opponent, though. I mean, he's got 1,000 banks, which means he'd be able to buy off any type of support that could help him through this match. I would just have to think because he's a CEO. He's the Ireton CEO. So, I mean, that would have to be his ability. Okay, cut me off and tell me why.
That's where Ref Eddie comes in. The most honest, noble, a man that cannot be bought referee in the independent game of professional wrestling referees. Eddie can't be bought. Eddie's going to be the official for Redemption Championship Wrestling. At least he's going to be the first one. We don't exactly know down the line. We don't know who Moses might try to pay off down the line, but I do know I'm going to get my hands on his boys. So, Ecstatic, I wish you all the luck in the world. I hope Moses is slow. So I hope you run circles around him, exhaust him, and put him on his back, just like you said in your promo.
Well, I think Mr. Ecstatic has a comment, though. He says, I've been saying his name. Is it Ireton or Iraton? I mean, I don't know what he's trying to say it as. I guess I'm going to pronunciate it. I think I did see your promo, but I actually admittedly have been having trouble with this. I think I got it right. I'm sure Moses is out there is probably going to correct me on this. I do apologize. Hope the ring doesn't break when he crumbles. Standard. Do you think the ring will break? I don't think listen, I don't think he's that big. I mean, I don't think he's rolling havoc big. I mean, I don't think he's that big. I mean, but I mean, I've watched you and him wrestle. What do you want to say to that comment there from Mr. Ecstatic?
Let me answer your question with a question. How big is he? How strong am I? I have
Well,
lived
you've held your own against him, no question. You have definitely held up against him. You guys have certainly gone toe to toe. Fair play. I say that much. I cede that much on that point.
you know, that saying that the kids are going with now, picture or it didn't happen, or video or it didn't happen. I've got both, and I put Moses on my shoulders in the fireman's carry position. That feud goes back. It's so deep. I don't even.
I've seen in other promotions out there. I mean, you guys have been on social media fighting each other. I mean, it's kind of one of those. I mean, you talked about you and Zach for 8 years, but I think this one to me is more memorable, you and Moses, in some ways, because of just where it's kind of taken place in different social media channels. It's on YouTube. You can just check some of the matches you guys had. I mean, you've even used some objects in different matches with each other. I mean, there's definitely some real bad blood there in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And it all boils down to my relationship with my son and how he tried to ruin that.
Yeah, I mean, he tried to use what was it? His pictures against you, or pictures, or something like that. Wasn't that a couple years ago? There was something with that where didn't you have to block him on social media or attempt to block him? I mean, you want to talk about that for the audience, because that's a rather interesting one that I've heard in my career.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. I'd love to put his ass on blast. It wasn't using pictures against. He tried to turn my son against me. Tried to make his dad seem like the bad guy and him seem like the good guy. He was trying to make my son his number one fan. He's trying to corrupt him. He's trying to buy him stuff at shows.
Well, he's got 1,000 banks. I mean, if you have 1,000 banks, I mean, people, I shouldn't say this on the air, but people will, I don't want to say that people call yours truly Daddy Warbucks, but let me just say I come close in real life to being called Daddy Warbucks. And if he's owning 1,000 banks, he's probably going to even have more Daddy Warbucks than yours truly. And I would be safe to say that I've got close to Daddy Warbucks material. So, I mean, I'm just going to say that. Just saying. Just saying.
His face is physical proof that money doesn't buy happiness. He just looks like a big grumpy bastard. And no matter what, no matter he's beaten me, he's taken my championship. You still same old on his face. And my son showed him in one of the videos, took a picture that Moses signed for him, ripped it in half, said, I don't need this anymore. I don't like him anymore. Embraced me, hugged me, said, I don't, my son's 5.
So he wasn't impressed that he was the Ireton CEO, correct? He wasn't impressed?
I don't think that's what he was impressed about. I think that he just liked the attention. He's 5. He was 4 at the time. And for somebody, in the wrestling business to try to turn, everybody around us sees mine and my son's relationship. When there aren't matches going on, me and him are in the ring just messing around. My son is my best friend. And you're going to try to take my best friend away from me? That makes me want to do more than beat you in a wrestling match. That makes me want to hurt you.
But you've got to stay impartial here, because you've got your own match. And obviously, Ecstatic says he's got this, but certainly Ecstatic is going to still have to have some standards to make sure that he watches his own back, because at any time, there could be, with those 1,000 banks that Moses has got, there could certainly be many friends of Mr. Ireton.
Let's talk about the many friends. Let's talk about 2 of the many friends. The guys that me and Venom are going up against in the main event.
Yes.
Their team is called Ireton Enterprises.
Ireton Enterprises. Correct. Let's get into that match. Obviously, ASAP and Baby Lotion. I mean, these guys are big guys too. I mean, I know you and Venom. Now, I've seen you and Venom together in VTW. So I kind of, I'm glad you're going to be a part of this match, that I've seen a little bit of this in the past. So I know what to expect from you two. but you are dealing with Ireton Enterprises, and you've seen firsthand the damage that they can do in the past. So, I mean, how are you guys going to be able to make sure that you hold your end of the bargain here in the main event?
You have no idea, Tom, how much these stories intertwine. I beat ASAP's father to win my first ever championship, the the ACW Mid Atlantic Championship,
which is a championship that Moses took from you at one point, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. And the way he took it from me, I was supposed to face Moses in the main event, and it was the beginning of the show. I was signing autographs. BLB, Baby Lotion Brown, he came up, actually asked for a picture. I thought he was being cute. I went to go start signing it for him, smashed my head on the table. Ronnie Hope, his valet, handed him like
I've seen Ronnie.
Shillelagh, something like that, whacked me in the leg, and I couldn't get up. I couldn't walk. I had
That's why you were walking around with a cast, not a cast. You were walking with crutches
and a brace. Somebody ended up having a brace in the trunk of their car, so that I could even move, because there wasn't any way I wasn't getting to that ring. Nobody was stopping me, and I think everybody saw the look on my face that I'm gonna fight this guy, whether I can walk or not. So you're either gonna let me go out there and defend my championship, or I might hurt you. I don't know. It's like the T-shirt said, I saw red that day.
No, that's no question about that here. And I'm going to come back to your match in a second, but certainly Mr. Ecstatic wants to give us an ecstatic-like comment here. We'll be doing this not only for you, Sinnick. I'll be doing this for your son, for Redemption Championship Wrestling, and to show that big clump he's a huge fish in a very small pond, in caps lock, and I am holding the real standards. Your response?
That was a good one. I don't know. That was pretty damn smooth. I got all the faith in the world and Ecstatic, but what you keep on alluding to, what you keep on saying and bringing back, it really does worry me. You talk about somebody that could buy people.
I mean, he could buy outsiders. Listen, WWE released like 20 million people. I mean, Moses Ireton's probably the one person right now that could afford these talents. So what my point is that Static has got to make sure that he watches his back. I know that he's given us a more than standard and ecstatic-like comment here, but Moses Ireton owns 1,000 banks. He can buy any type of protection that's not only in Ireton Enterprises, but anywhere out there. Now, I'm not trying to be a pro-Moses person by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just giving you the pros and cons. I'm just giving you both sides here because Moses is not here live with us on Sportswire Radio to talk about his side of the coin. And there is a point to it. And you know this better than anybody because you've had history with him that's deep. You've had a long history, Sinnick, with Moses Ireton. You know him better than anybody. You know what he's capable of. So I'm just saying for Ecstatic, and maybe for even you in your match against Ireton Enterprises, that he could certainly make sure the numbers are always in his favor because of just he's got the money, he's got the banks.
He's got the money. Money runs out. I have genuine friends. Did you just possibly make me think that on the way to the ring, Ecstatic might get jumped by Dolph Ziggler and Shelton Benjamin? Sure, I don't know.
It could be anybody. Listen, I mean, there's a whole bunch of names that are out there. He could certainly buy them off. They got nothing to do right now. Dolph Ziggler, Shelton Benjamin, Matt Riddle even. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that you could think about that are available. I mean, it could even not just be men, but also women. Dana Brooks available. And also on top of that, that would mean her husband. Her husband, oh, by the way, big UFC fighter. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of people out there that he could just call up on the phone with his cell phone and say, hey, can you help me out? I want to make sure I win, especially first time in the company, brand new company, RCR. Want to make sure I look good. I mean, anything's possible.
All right. We had some fun with the jokes. I'm going back. Yeah. I'm going back to that mind state, though. This man has hurt me emotionally when it came to my family. He's hurt me physically by paying somebody to do it. instead of even doing it himself. Can't even get his own hands dirty. And when he did get his hands dirty, guess what? I put him on his back. I knocked his ass out with a spinning back fist. And there was a whole crowd there to see it. Me and Moses, we got chained together for far too long. It started out as a one-off match, and then I found a different place to wrestle. Next month, who shows up in that same exact very place? He's been following me around everywhere. It's not even like I was gonna, go into Redemption Championship Wrestling and expect this fresh start and not have him hear about it and buy his way into it, right? I knew he was coming. I'm glad he's gonna be here. Because
Really? You're glad he's here after everything you've went through with him? You're glad? Really? Why do you say that?
I'll tell you exactly why. Because we had a dog collar match. The match
I remember that. I've seen that.
But what you probably don't know is that the match was going to happen 3 times. And it was an outdoor venue. So guess what? When it rains, show gets canceled. It got to the point where it was almost match time. And it was the final time. And it was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for the company. I'm not going to get into the politics of all that.
Like I said at the beginning, if there's something that's out there, the best advice would be pretend they never existed.
Yeah. So I'll go, but I can't talk about everything that is about to be or could be without going a little bit there, without mentioning those 3 letters of ACW.
Okay.
That dog collar match, I don't know if it's going to be a dog collar match, but we're going to finish this. I don't care if we got to finish this in an alley somewhere and somebody doesn't walk out of it. We're going to fucking finish this.
All right. I mean, then obviously let's transition then to your match again, because you're in the main event and you're in a main event against people that obviously work with Moses, and they're obviously, again, part of Ironton Enterprises. So I have to ask you, you're the main event. You're the guy that's closing the show. After everything we spoke about here, there's a lot of pressure on you, obviously, for you to get the job done here and win, because you've got plans still. The chapter's not been written on this book between you and Moses Ironton. So then talk about how much pressure there is on you to win this Saturday in the main event against 2 people, again, in ASAP and Baby Lotion Brown, that work for a man that has made your life a living hell these past several years.
It's all the pressure. It's all the weight on my shoulders. And there's no way to push it off every single day that we get closer to it, which there's only a few of them left. So the weight gets a little bit heavier every single time. I have to win. I have to win in front of my son and my wife.
And it's the first main event in the company's history, I would point out, just like I talked about before. First show, first impressions. This is the first main event. There'll never be another first main event. You're in that first main event. You lose, you could be forever branded a loser. He's branded a loser. He lost in the main event, Sinnick. Despite Sinnick being this guy, all I see is red. He slays everybody. He's done this. He's been in these other companies. He's been here. He's been there. You're in a main event against 2 guys who belong to a group of your mortal enemy, maybe your biggest enemy you've had in your career. You're going to be branded a loser here this weekend.
I'm going to go back to 2 things. One of them, I felt the same way against Zach. It might have been a different kind of pressure, but in my head, it was very much the same. I had all the doubts. A lot of people had all the doubts. They didn't think that I could beat Zach. I had to pull out that something extra. That's something that I didn't know if it was there until I got to the dance. When all those fans are sitting at the first, they're watching the main event of this first ever show at this first ever place.
Sold out crowd. There's going to be a lot of people there. Saturday night, late September. People feel good because it's still September. People are just out and about. High school football was the day before. They've got nothing to do. Maybe they went to the mall. Not going to be a big movie weekend this weekend. They've got nothing to do. It's going to be a cheap ticket, affordable, family-friendly night. So you're going to have a packed house coming up Saturday night. You know it, and the world knows it.
We all know it. And I know what I said at the beginning of this podcast. I said that RCR is going to be about creating moments. It's not going to be a moment of Sinnick being a footnote left in the dust where the next show it's like, oh, where do we put him? Do we have him open the show? Do we have him second? Or is he still the main event guy? Yes, Sinnick will still be the main event guy. And you will want to pay to see where I go next. And if it's going to be me and Moses, or is there going to be another roadblock? Because we keep on talking about how money just keeps on buying brick walls that I have to fight through. More obstacles.
It's like an obstacle course. I mean, have you ever climbed an obstacle course before? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe you have to go climb an obstacle course
Yeah,
and kind of.
I'm climbing the obstacle course, a big ass Moses, and no matter how
He's a
tired.
big man. I've even noticed that you're both from New York. He's part of another part of the state, and you're part of downstate, almost near me. And he's part of, I guess, Ithaca, which I believe is just past the Hudson Valley. So how about that irony that you're actually both from New York, although different parts of the state? What about that thrown in there?
Well, I will say this. I feel like New York are some of the realest people in the world and will always tell you exactly like it is.
I am from Brooklyn, so this is speaking my language. I am a true Brooklyner. So, okay, go ahead.
There's
Floor is
people.
yours.
So let me talk to you.
I get that all the time. I was just in Bensonhurst and Gravesend a few days ago. So go ahead. Floor is yours. Floor is yours.
There's a lot of people in a lot of different states. I think we could both agree that like to stab you in the back. We from New York like to stab you right in the front and look in your eyes as you go down.
Yeah,
Fair.
I mean, I don't disagree with that. I do not disagree with that whatsoever. We'll have to see if you finish this story, and I'll come back to that. But I want to talk about actually the founder of the company for a minute, Mr. Mellon, Jimmy Mellon, who's obviously come up with the concept of the company and RCR Redemption Championship Wrestling. So talk about how important he's been to the company and just having this event and his vision for getting us here to where we're going to be live September the 30th, this Saturday, inauguration. Talk about how important our founder has been, Mr. Jimmy Mellon.
I have to go back once again before I can go forward. Jimmy Mellon was, I believe, the referee for my first ACCW match where I was forced to team with Moses Ireton. This just gets weirder and
I
weirder.
feel like this is your life. I mean, you're gonna see Moses Ireton when you're 70 years old in the old folks' home. You're gonna be like, you know what? You're gonna just for whatever reason see Moses Ireton. He may still own 1,000 banks. Maybe 900 of them will actually cease to exist. But I'm sure at the end of the day, when you're 70 or 75 years old, you're gonna just see Moses Ireton. I assure you that that's what's gonna happen.
I'm hoping he meets his first ever girlfriend and then he goes bankrupt and she takes everything. But with Jimmy Mellon, Jimmy offered me an open door at ACW, which I graciously accepted, and he helped me with so many things on a personal level. Times when I was struggling, things that I was going through in my personal life.
Sure.
He was either a phone call away or we talk in person. And when Jimmy had had enough, this is kind of how it all started. When Jimmy had had enough with the way he was being mistreated at ACW, and he felt like he couldn't take it anymore and he had to go somewhere else and do something else, I knew where my loyalty lied. And I followed Jimmy out the door. And I didn't know exactly, sometimes people say some stuff and you go, yeah, man, that'd be cool. But he went out and he freaking did it. And I got nothing but support for him. And I'm going to do everything I can to back that man, this company, and do business. And we're just going to This is taking a lot out of me, actually.
No, well, you know what? Listen, and I'll just say this because I speak as we're here right now with Sinnick himself, who is obviously a part of a brand new company called Redemption Championship Wrestling. Their first event coming up here this Saturday, September the 30th, called Inauguration. If you'd like to talk with Sinnick, you can do that on Twitter at Deceased Vessel, Instagram X Sinnick X. He's also on Facebook as well. Give him a friend request. He's on YouTube out there as well. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportzwire Radio. Listen, I speak with a lot of wrestlers, speak with also a lot of wrestling promoters out there, and it does take a lot to go out there and make a transition where, let's say you're doing it as let's say a wrestler, a referee, maybe you're somebody that's a part of the company in a capacity, but then to go out on your own and start something else, no matter what, it's like starting a business, right? Anybody who starts their own business, like a wrestling company, it takes a lot of courage, takes a lot out of you. And for him to do that and to, on top of that, put together a show that has as many good talents that are a part of this show being advertised, what you guys have. I mean, you guys have some of the premier talents all across the mid-Atlantic here and the North Carolina area. I mean, Luka Daniels, again, we spoke about him tonight. Zach Daniels spoke about him tonight. Moses Ireton, despite whatever you may say about him, he's got a massive following. You've done your career. Obviously, seen you in DBW, VTW. I mean, Aaron Jones, Jacob Ryan was the YouTube champion in VTW. I mean, ASAP, Baby Lotion Brown, Ecstatic, Tyler Aiken. Tyler Aiken, everybody knows Tyler Aiken. So the point is, the roster that we have here, he's put together a phenomenal roster here that I think we're going to be here for years to come. So I know it's tough for you to answer, but I'll answer it for you because I do this all the time. You got to give him a lot of credit for stepping up to the plate and going out on his own, but also putting together a company that's got some phenomenal talent all across the board that I think is going to show why you were here for years to come.
And here's the thing, we haven't even shown all our cards yet. When you think that this is the roster, you might not have seen the whole roster. We might not even know how many of these people might not be back for the second time, and what caliber of wrestler might be in their spot next time. That's also something to think about.
I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to come back to that toward the end of the show. I promise you, I'm going to come back to that. But I do want to also talk about some things that you have done in the past because you've also wrestled a little bit in DBW. And I did want to go back to that for a few minutes because DBW just had probably their biggest show in the company's history that took place here at World War. And it's going to air live on their YouTube page on October the 14th. And I'm not going to obviously ask you about that show, but what I was going to ask you before I get to some more comments is, what are your memories of being in DBW, and maybe what have you learned from that into the journey that has led you now to being where you are right now, a part of a pro wrestling company? I was just curious because I do have a lot of your peers from DBW that come on Sportswire, and I'm sure they're going to hear this and they're going to come back on after World War airs. So I'm just curious on what are your memories in DBW?
Well, first off, I'm sure he's done driving right now. Shout out to my brother Brandon Castelli.
Yes, I was going to get to him. I was going to get to Mr. Brandon.
Can't wait to see you again soon, bro.
He'll be back on Sportswire too. Good news. You'll see him back on Sportswire real soon.
And I'll be watching. I'll be listening.
I'm sure you will.
DBW, I remember we used to have these road trips, and it was right.
Well, you're in Mr. Castelli's vlog, that's actually where, when you messaged me on Facebook, and I was like, wait a minute. I was like, I looked at you and you friend requested me. I was like, wait a minute. I know this guy from his vlog. And then it was like, I already started watching. I'm like, oh, now it connects. VTW, DBW. So yeah, it makes all sense, the road trips. I see it. Go ahead. Continue.
Castelli's vlog is so entertaining, and I even tried to do a little thing called the Sinnick Files myself, and then
I watched a little bit of it, and
I realized how much energy that actually takes, and like how much how consistent you have to be.
Yeah.
I that maybe pick it up again in the future, but for now, I just like enjoying watching Brandon's. I will go back to DBW and these road trips where it used to be like 5 of us from New York, all going out to Shippensburg, Pennsylvania, And it was at the time when the WWE Network had that what was that show called? You know what I'm talking about, where they'd be on the road,
Was it Road Trip?
maybe Road Trip, whatever. We made our
Ride
own
along, ride along.
ride along.
Right. Well, yeah, I remember that where you'd have like two to four wrestlers in a car,
Hmm.
and they would drive along like after a show, and maybe they would drive to like the next city or to their hotel. Yeah, I remember right along like 2018 ish, like 2019. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were kids, we were backyard wrestlers, and like we wanted our own version. We called it drive by, and we had fun the whole drive there. Then we'd get there, and Brian would just treat us like gold. He's such a good guy. Uh,
Yes.
the ring is amazing. It was probably one of the first times we had been in like such a nice caliber ring, and we just started meeting all the talent. Some of them not there anymore. Some of them on the independent circuit. Everybody kind of, found their way, and the ones that are still there, are the ones that I'm still probably going to be wrestling over and over again down the road, because we just have that connection. We're brothers, man.
Absolutely. No, I could definitely see that there. And before I get to somebody else from VTW who I know I owe an appearance on Sportswire too, I'll say hello to him in a second. But you actually did have a match with Mr. Castelli not too long ago on VTW TV, where he did actually join the Legion. And it's almost like kind of one of those things you used to see in wrestling where okay, it happened, and then it was kind of like in baseball, it's like you were like left hanging at the plate, and it was almost like Carlos Beltran for the Mets in the 2006 National League Championship Series, bases loaded. Well, it's
Good.
like you're taught every time it's 3-2, and it's like, well, you're supposed to swing. Every little league coach tells you this. We were kind of waiting for you and Brandon to do something after he joined Legion, and it never happened. But I did actually see you and Brandon have wrestled recently, not too long in VTW TV.
This is going to be hard to explain.
Well, don't say anything incriminating. I just thought from watching it, it was sort of like, okay, we're going to see more of it. Maybe we'll see more of it again in the future, but you did wrestle. Let's talk at least about the match. And it was an interesting match for what it was. And I could certainly see why Mr. Castelli would have had you as an opponent, and he answered your open challenge.
Yeah. Nothing makes wrestling like when you twist it with a big dose of reality. And that's why I got kind of choked up when we started going into the founder of the company, Jimmy Mellon, because he's just such a close personal friend of mine, and he's done so much. When it comes to
Sure.
Brandon and a lot of these guys, I wanted Brandon to be there when it came to tagging against the Bad Sons. I wanted Brandon to be there so many times. Brandon couldn't get there. Brandon was stuck at Legion Labs, and he wasn't passing the tests. You know what I'm saying? He just
Yeah, it's tough. No, listen, you know what? It's certainly tough that you obviously have standards and you have practices and there are certainly things that go into it. And maybe never say never. Listen, who knows what the future will bring? You never know.
Yeah, and I feel like I haven't really touched on because I'm not fighting Ireton Enterprises all by myself. I feel like my ADHD brain needs to intertwine these two. Um,
Well, tell us what I'm missing. Tell us what we should know without giving us the spoilers.
well, my tag team partner for the inauguration brawl main event, huge pressure, weight on the shoulders, is Venom.
Oh, I know Venom very well. Yes, I do.
Someone that I kind of need on my side right now in the Legion, because he's the only one showing up for me and having my back, is Venom. And this is a guy that when I beat ASAP's father for the championship, he was the first guy to get in the ring while I was holding up that championship, hug me and say, "Congratulations, brother. You did it. You got your first one." So it's somebody who's had my back every single time, whether it be Moses, whether it be his goons, whether it be the Bad Sons, when there's more of them than there is of me.
You guys have been outnumbered on VTW TV. I will certainly say that.
And where, oh, where is Everett Creed? Nobody knows. We only see him in videos. So that's a question that I think is going to be answered at Halloween Hangover. So if you want to go a little bit into VTW land for a second, Halloween Hangover is going to be contested in nothing but steel cages. So I am really hoping that I'm not stuck in a steel cage all by myself with the extremely bad Suns.
Well, I mean, the way things ended the last time we saw you on VTW TV, maybe you won't be certainly by yourself. I guess we'll have to certainly find out. But speaking of VTW, I do want to say hello to Mr. D'Lo Smith. He says, "What's up, fellas?" So, anything you want to say to D'Lo?
D'Lo is the man, and
And then I owe an appearance to on Sportswire because I think he was supposed to come on one of the periods I was sick. Because unfortunately, in the last month, I think I've gotten the same exact things. Although I'm a little better than when it was last month. I unfortunately had like a stomach virus for almost like 2 weeks. I couldn't shake, and I think he was in between the period that I actually had to cancel a few different days of movies. Today I'm actually not that bad, but there was a period I think where he kind of caught me in between. It was like I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink, and I'm sort of in that period right now. But obviously, I say hello to him. Anything else you want to say about D'Lo other than I owe him an appearance on Sportswire Radio?
yeah, there's plenty I want to say about D'Lo.
Sure.
You remember back when everybody was calling Buddy Murphy WWE's best kept secret?
Correct. Yes, I do. Yes, I
Because
do.
he was so damn good, but he
Yes.
didn't get that spot.
Oomph. Yep.
D'Lo
Yep.
Smith is so charismatic. He has a presence. He has the look. He is the man, and I can't wait to see him on SportsWire because I think he needs that platform to let more people know just who the hell he is.
No, definitely. Listen, I got to tell you, I'll definitely make that a priority. I mean, I apologize. I mean, you have no idea sometimes the amount of people that want to come on, but definitely he's somebody that I actually personally owe an appearance to. So definitely, I will be in touch with him when we are off the air. But we are here on Sportswire. If about the 20 or 30 minutes here with Mr. Sinnick himself, and obviously it is a tremendous honor to have him. And if you'd like to find out more information on Redemption Championship Wrestling, you can do that in the links below. If you'd like to support Sportswire Radio, you can do that here in the link above. If you also want to support one of our potential new sponsors, a company called Dooley.com, also on Instagram as well, where they actually get to allow you to vote on stipulations of matches, different things out there they're testing out. And maybe on Sportswire, we'll do some of that in the future. So we say hello to our friends over there as well. But certainly, most importantly, the link below, support our friends over at Redemption Championship Wrestling and Mr. Sinnick himself. And we have to support Sinnick because, well, Sinnick is from New York and he's from Long Island. He is from Islip. So East Islip he is from. So we have to support him and make sure that we support all those people out there in the community who are here now in North Carolina getting ready for Redemption Championship Wrestling. So I want to ask you a question on RCR actually, and I think goes back to some of the things you said on the main event and some of the new surprises you might see, who's going to be here, who's not going to be there. But what is the goals for this company? Like, what is your goals here for Redemption Championship Wrestling?
Um, One of the biggest goals, and I think we've already achieved them, is to make a whole hell lot of noise. We want people to know we exist, to start. That's a hard thing to do. Like there's so many companies that pop up for a day, a week, a month, and then you never see her.
Yeah, I see it in England. There'll be like a company and they'll say, "Oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that," and then they're never heard from again. Never
Yeah.
heard from again.
So we'll start with short-term goals. We
Sure.
want people know just who the heck we are and that we're here to stay. It's like you never hear some of these companies again, but we want to be not only heard, but we're not trying to be a threat, but we're trying to be like a real presence, and we want to get to a point where we have annual shows, like where everybody starts to know, you know, just to use as an example, inauguration is coming around again. You know what that means, or something of that nature. We want, we just want, We just want to make it, and we want people.
Listen, you'll make it. Trust me, you'll make it. I mean, I would answer it like this: a rising tide will always lift all boats. Those are the famous words that John F. Kennedy and Ronald Reagan had said. And I'll equate it to what you guys are going to do. I know that obviously North Carolina is a hotbed for wrestling, but I can assure you that a rising tide, that Redemption Championship Wrestling is going to have with the boats of the roster that you have, I have no doubt that not only you will make it, you will have those annual shows. Maybe it will be your show, your WrestleMania show will be inauguration. Maybe it will be that. Maybe it won't be. I don't know, but I know that you'll be here and you'll be here to stay, and you'll certainly slay any of the naysayers out there to steal a phrase of yours. Let me get to a few comments here. D'Lo says he loves you. He says to me, take my time. Well, I'm on live right now, so I mean, I really can't message you now, but I'll message you when I'm off the air. Kind of trying to be funny. Drum roll, please, but I'm pumped. But let me get to a more serious comment. Sinnick is a man on a mission and is carrying the Legion on his back. He's top 3 of the opponents I'd love to face. He's crazy athletic as well, and I'm glad he moved to the Carolinas. Your response?
Wow. Call me athletic. That's pretty cool.
Well, he ain't calling the double B, the Bitcoin billionaire Chase Wakefield that athletic. He's calling you that athletic. That was kind of a tongue in cheek there, but that's what he has to say.
Oh, I hope he's listening. We can talk about the Bitcoin billionaire anytime.
We'll go to him next. I was going to work him in. I will go to him next, but respond to anything you like to say from Mr. D'Lo.
I cannot wait for the opportunity to step in a ring with D'Lo. I think that will test the both of us, and it will totally be a clash of styles, and it will not really have it'll have people guessing and at the edges of their seats, because I don't really know if I can beat him. He probably doesn't know if he could beat me, and there's only one way to find that out, and we'll have to find out where too, because I know D'Lo's got some stuff going on in his personal life, some things that he's doing, but we're going to find this time. We're going to do it down the road, D'Lo.
Well, I know one thing. That would be a match that a lot of people would like to see. I don't know where that'll be, but I'm sure it'll be somewhere, because
no matter when, it'll be an absolute honor.
And we certainly look forward to speaking about that here on Sportswire Radio. So we certainly hope for that to happen, undoubtedly. But since you brought him up and I brought it up, I got to bring him up because he will be back on Sportswire Radio. And I'm trying to figure out, is he actually still in DBW? Because he's technically not in DBW at the moment, because he lost his Hub City Championship the last time we saw him on TV. And you called him, I'm not going to say the word because you said it, but I will call him the Double B, the Bitcoin billionaire, Mr. Chase Wakefield himself, a man that certainly has, I guess you could objectively say, an opinion about himself. He speaks very highly of himself, no question. And he certainly likes to be a place of many places that people would like to see him in. But what would you like to say then, since you kind of mentioned him in a certain way, Mr. Chase Wakefield?
Well, first of all, I saw his Netflix series Wednesday. It was pretty good. I have a Halloween decoration right outside my house that kind of looks like him. Weighing in at -5 pounds, and when the wind blows, see you later. Chase Wakefield.
Wow. -5 pounds. Okay. And Halloween decorations. Boy, you were prepared for this one, huh? Wow. Okay. Oh, this is interesting here. So, I mean, you don't like Mr. Wakefield, I could see, but a lot of people I notice these days don't like Mr. Wakefield either. I've even seen him beat up on stage by a rapper. I mean, a famous rapper took him down. And a lot of people seem like they don't like Mr. Wakefield. Why do you think that is?
Cool guy. I mean, our true boss man of VTW. It looked like when you're a kid and you take the doll and you start doing moves to it, because that's just like when you're watching wrestling and it's like for fun. It was Wakefield got in the ring with Aaron Jones, and Wakefield was the doll that he just got to practice moves on.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Jones, yes. I have seen Aaron Jones in the ring. I certainly have seen that, yes.
I hope you're not going to ask about any me versus Chase Wakefield dream matches, because that ain't when it's going to be. He is nowhere near on my level. I don't. He's gonna have to bulk up, climb some ladders. I don't know what he's gonna have to do. He's probably gonna have to swallow a house just to be big enough.
I don't even know if that's possible, though. If you say, I mean, I've had Chase on here, and I'm trying to be really down the line here when I say these things,
I
but
got a broad imagination.
I don't even know if he swallowed a house that
Well, you could stop it. He swallowed. It's fine.
I'm going to plead the fifth on that. I'm actually a reverend. But what I will say is that I don't know if a house would actually put him into the weight that you say. I mean, you did grow up on Long Island. Maybe if he had like a year's supply of Entenmann's goods, maybe that would help a little bit. I mean, there was the Entenmann's Long Island reference. Maybe you would have appreciated that.
Every time I drove past it, I always rolled the window down. Smelled amazing.
I have to say, I did appreciate Entenmann's as a kid. I remember there was an outlet, and there was an Entenmann's outlet store in Brooklyn on Flatbush Avenue, and I remember that very well. Then they had one here in Staten Island when I moved to Staten Island from Brooklyn. Then I wound up going back to Brooklyn, and it was great. I had the best of both worlds for both places. But the point is not about me and Entenmann's on Flatbush Avenue. It's about Chase Wakefield and you saying he's not in your league. He's not in your category.
That's exactly it. It's not about Chase Wakefield. It'll never be about Chase Wakefield. He could bring his secret weapon, the Burfinator 5000, and it will not matter. Chase Wakefield is not a player in the game, and I sure hope he's listening.
All right. Well, if you say that, I'm going to tell you what. Because Mr. Wakefield will be back on Sportswire in the month of October. I am going to make sure even if he's not listening tonight, to notify him of these comments from you, sir. And I will let Mr. Wakefield respond and kindly to those comments. And I will promise you at a future time on Sportswire, because you have more shows coming up for RCR, to bring you back. And I'm sure by that point, Mr. Wakefield will have said a few things about what you said about him. And I'm sure we'll say a few different things about each other. And we'll kind of figure it out here, almost like a food fight at a Thanksgiving dinner table. So we'll have to see here on a number of those things. But D'Lo would like to say absolutely about wrestling you in the ring. That's something I'm sure you'd like to see. I want to say hello to the DKW champion of the world in the state of Ohio, Mr. Joe Stone, who says, "How you doing, Tom?" and Mr. Sinnick. So he says,
"Doing
hello.
Great, Mr. Stone. Thank you."
Yes, Joe's a good guy. Joe's a champion. His name's Joe Stone. He's from Ohio. I like Joe. I hope you do too. So obviously, I've got most of the things down with RCR. I'm going to maybe come back to a few different things. But for fun, I actually have to ask you a fun question. And you're going to probably be surprised I even know this about you. But you sang in a band at one time. What was that like, singing in a band? And how did you use that transition to becoming a pro wrestler?
Okay. So I didn't even know if we were going to actually go to something like this.
I figured why not at least do something for fun. I mean, I wasn't going to ask you about like the Busted Open Nation because it's not my wheelhouse. But I was always told this. One of my friends is a filmmaker, and he always goes, Tom, the best questions you've asked in your 5 years doing this is these fun questions. So I said, all right, I'll take your advice on it. So I just did see you sang in a band, and I just thought, what was that like in terms of how has that prepared you to be on a big stage and being a wrestler? That's all.
No, that's great. I would love to talk about it. I'm holding this up right now because a lot of times I get a question about this tattoo, and someone goes, "Oh, wow, are you a singer?" And I was a metalcore vocalist.
Oh, wow. That's not easy to do. My mother actually sings, which is why I actually wanted to ask you this question. So there you go.
Awesome. I was, how old was I? I think I was like 17, where I was listening to Reminiscence by Avenged Sevenfold.
Yep.
And when you can't scream, but you like heavy music with screaming, you kind of do that whisper thing along with the song, right? You kind
of absolutely.
What? Nothing wrong with me. So I got the headphones in my ear. I'm longboarding. I used to love longboarding, and I'm like just really into this song at the moment for whatever reason, and I just pushing, and I take the headphone out, and I realize I'm really like screaming this out. So I realized like I can do this right now. Like I kind of want to start a band. I want to try to, I got a friend that's a drummer. I got a friend that's a guitarist, and that all kind of like lasted a couple days, but then later I took it more seriously. I started going along with the songs in the car, and I just started working on range, because when it comes to screaming, you hear your high, you hear your
Yep.
low, mid, and I kept really trying to perfect it. And I ended up putting a band together, and we were called Eternal Chaos. We played a nice handful of shows and ended up getting one studio recording before it all kind of came crashing down.
Hmm.
And we got it on Apple Music and Spotify. It was called 6 Feet Deep.
Oh wow. Okay. Well,
So
if there's a link out there still, and you want to send it to me when we're off the air, I definitely like to hear it because I'd be very curious about that. And I had a cousin of mine. I shouldn't probably say this; it'll probably be funny, but I had a cousin that was actually a roadie for Bret Michaels when he was a solo artist, and he actually screwed the gig up because he got into heroin, and he was like a phenomenal guitar player. He used to sit there and he was homeschooled, and he would sit there in his room all day, and he would just play to Randy. We played to Randy Rhoads. It was the first two Ozzy albums, and then he would play to Eddie Van Halen. He would play to Eruption. He'd play to anything off that. Then he'd play. He'd copy Jimi Hendrix, and that was it. And but anything you could ask him, he could play it. He was just like that was his thing. He got the gig. He was making money, and then he was like a loser after that. But I could appreciate the thing. And I actually, I should probably say this also. You'll appreciate this. As a kid, I wrote to the band Anthrax, and they had an album at the time called "We've Come for You All." It was the last one with John Bush, and I actually got a package in the mail, which was flyers for the album. And as a kid, I must have been in like high school, and I was handing out flyers for Anthrax on the street corners in Manhattan because they gave me the flyers to the album. So I kind of figured that. Now, what gigs did you play on Long Island? I'm sure you played at a few bars. Did you guys play at any places I would know of? No, any places that were local that I might have remembered?
if you haven't heard of Revolution, that was one of Long Island's most famous ones.
Yep,
Then
I heard of Revolution. Yes, I did.
there's also Amityville Music Hall, which we did a battle.
I definitely know the Amityville Music Hall because I do basketball coverage, and I know a lot of guys that came from Amityville, so I know Amityville very well.
And everybody knows about its horror. So
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so you actually had some history there. So obviously, so I guess maybe did that give you some of the courage to go out there when you went to become get the formal training as a pro? To maybe let's say now I'm going to be in these settings like coming up this Saturday. So maybe in a way, some of those experiences maybe helped you to where you are today.
I loved being the front man. Absolutely. I wish I could have played an instrument. I don't.
Well, they say singers are an instrument. Listen, they say singers are an instrument because your voice is actually an instrument. So I wouldn't sell yourself short on that.
I also wasn't the kind of singer that was like, felt like he was too good to carry stuff. Like I was always hauling in the drummer's equipment and things like that. That
You didn't have lead singer's disease. They famously used to refer to a lot of singers called LSD, lead singer's disease.
Yeah, and guitar doodlers are a little bit worse. It's the guys that
Yeah, they are. That was my cousin. My cousin was the guitar wanker, and he was the one that got the gig and blew the gig. So, yep, I'm aware.
guitarists are the real drama queens at least in my history. I started up a second band. Well, I kind of popped into a second band that was about to be brand new called Burn Your Bridges, and what ended it was we were about to come out with an EP, and I moved to North Carolina, and I was by another singer who I loved his band and I loved the front man. I've even jumped on stage with him. We did some Killswitch Engage together.
Okay.
So there was love there. But I'd be lying if I didn't say, as the Instagram videos are hitting, I'm like, they're playing with Darkest Hour, they're opening for Tala. I'm just like, it could have been me. Like, there's at least a couple of months of that. Damn.
But you're here right now, coming up this Saturday, Redemption Championship Wrestling. That's where you're meant to be. Everything happens for a reason. Sure. Could you have been there on the biggest stages? Maybe. But you're here this Saturday, and you're here on Sportswire, And that's why it all, like I said, everything happens for a reason. And D'Lo wants to say Chris Jericho vibes. Yeah, I mean, you got the Chris Jericho vibes. Listen, when you make it here in RCR, when you make it in more places, the company grows. You could always start a band again. I mean, listen, Chris Jericho did it. He started a band later on in his life when his career was established. And a few years ago, he got a gold single. So you never know. John Cena famously in 2005 recorded an album. He made the top 20 in the US Billboard charts. Listen, things can happen. You can definitely make it. Anything is possible. So obviously, as I'm coming up toward the end of the show here, and before we get to the end of the show, I want to ask you one more thing. You have any memories of Asher Christ and Mr. Judgment? Because I have to ask you at least about that individual, because he's going to be back on Sportswire. I can't let you get away without it. I can't.
I can't say anything about Asher Christ and Mr. Judgment without fearing for my soul, first of all.
That's why I actually wanted to do that.
You set me up, Mr. Bryce.
Well, I'm the one that has to speak with him again after this. You don't.
Yeah, I get. Well, no, we're gonna cross paths. Trust me.
Oh, I know that you were in that ladder match actually at the beginning of the year, and
yeah,
for the
he tried to make dirt. He thinks that.
I did see that. I did see that. He's a scary man. He's a very scary man. Any other further scary memories or anything else you want to add on this?
Oh yeah, do your homework on Novin if you haven't. Jeez.
Yes.
Mr. Judgment and Novin once had, it was like a crucifix match. Like they had to like hang each other. It was wild. I was there. I was there. I've seen so many Mr. Judgment matches. I've been in a couple, but we've never had our proper one-on-one. We've been in this ladder match. We've been in a 6-man tag match. We've been in a purgatory match where
he's the prophet of purgatory. I'm sure you're aware of.
Mm-hmm. But we haven't gotten that. So that's where like this, the VTW rebirth and everything, like there's so many endless possibilities where we might cross paths again. And if I take that Judgment Slam, I don't know if I'm getting up. Like he's got all these secret weapons. Like these moves are insane. They look like they just finish people. Now, if it comes to Chase Wakefield, like again, a gust of wind will finish him. But more legible opponents, I've seen him do some damage. And I know I could do some damage too. I am a hard-hitting dude.
No, you are definitely a hard-hitting man. And I definitely do think that would be a battle of heavyweights. You and Judgment, Asher Christ. No question about it. And I'll say this, as I said to his son when he came on the show last month. Judgment, Asher Christ, whatever name he is, depending on the company he's a part of, I think he's right now on the best run of his career. He is in a mindset that I would want no part of him. And he is certainly somebody that I know you're on a big run right now. I know you're obviously getting prepared for RCR, but I just would like to say tread very, very lightly with Mr. Judgment or / Mr. Christ, depending on wherever he is. But I have a question from Joe Stone because he's a world champion also. I want to get to it, but it's a fun one here before we move on here to a few more questions. But I guess, do you ever get being compared or look like to Adam Cole? Because he basically says he thinks that you look just a little like Adam Cole, baby.
Actually, my biggest comparison, and neither of you might see it, but my wife might have married me for it, is Mark Wahlberg. But Adam Cole, I've got once or twice, maybe, but that's cool.
I could see a little, but maybe.
I hope I look more built than Adam Cole.
Adam Cole's like Chase Wakefield, like -5 pounds. I mean, Britt Baker weighs more than Adam Cole.
Well,
although I will give you both credit, you and Britt Baker are Steelers fans, and I kind of root for the Steelers, but that's a different topic for a different discussion. Sure. Yes, the Kenny Pickett's playing well, so I'm happy about that, but we'll talk about that on a different time. Before I get to closing thoughts here, I want to ask you this last formal question about Redemption Championship Wrestling. We're all excited about it here coming up on September the 30th. But for those that are going to show up this Saturday, and for those that are watching this on Sportswire Radio and are hearing about you guys for the first time, but are thinking about going, thinking about following, thinking about buying a ticket, what do you want to say to both groups here tonight before September the 30th?
I'm sorry, I just kind of blanked out for a second. Can you repeat
So
the
I'm
question?
going to ask it to you, as I know we're coming up to the end of the show anyway. Is we have this show this Saturday,
Hmm.
and I'm going to give you the opportunity to address those that are showing up who've already bought a ticket to Redemption Championship Wrestling's inauguration, and to those that are hearing about the company and yourself for the first time on Sportswire Radio tonight, in order for them to kind of maybe come in and join the conversation, whether it's following on socials and buying that ticket. What do you want to say to both groups tonight?
Get ready to see something completely different, where old school meets new school. It will have things like you have never seen before. It is not just going to be just another company that shows up and goes away. We are here to stay, and we are here to create moments for you to leave with and remember forever. And every single time that you are holding on to that moment, there'll be a new one waiting for you when you come back in those doors. I promise you.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I learned that Redemption Championship Wrestling is a company that, like Jonathan Davis of Korn famously sang, is going to be here to stay. And it's going to be here to stay starting on September the 30th as we have inauguration. And it's going to be a who's who of stars, including the likes of Luka Daniels, who you've definitely heard of, Zach Daniels, if you're a VTW fan, you've heard of, Jacob Ryan, Corey Adetzel, Moses Ireton, who I know Mr. Sinnick has definitely heard of, Ecstatic, who many people have also heard of. A who's who of people, and especially in our main event here that we're going to see, where it's going to be Sinnick and Venom. If you're a VTW fan, you've definitely seen them in the past. They'll be teaming up against Ireton Enterprises, ASAP, and Baby Lotion Brown. Like I said, this is a roster that I'm telling you, you're going to be really, really impressed with. You're going to remember from years to come. You got Michael Gabriel and Von Miller. That's going to be a match we spoke about. That's going to just tear the house down. Aaron Jones. Can never forget about Aaron Jones if you're a fan of Sportswire, because we've spoke about him quite a bit in the past. Tyler Hagan, another man we spoke about. Like I said, I can go on and on and on like the Energizer Bunny all day on Sportswire about the who's who of this roster. But the point is, I put the links here below where you can find out, join the conversation, and support this great company. Because I can assure you that on Sportswire Radio, we will be speaking more and more about this company because they will be here for years and years ahead. And the North Carolina wrestling scene just got a lot of busier, and it got a heck of a lot more bigger. Last comment here before I get to closing thoughts. D'Lo says he can see the Mark Wahlberg. Yeah, I mean, I guess the long hair throws me off a little bit. Maybe that's what it is. Because I'm trying to remember if Mark Wahlberg actually had long hair. But yeah, I could see the Mark Wahlberg maybe more so than Adam Cole. Because like I said, Adam Cole weighs like Chase Wakefield's weight. Like
Check out the movie Rockstar. I think you'd love it.
I've seen Rockstar, but I hope I'm getting too much trouble with this. But I am not a Jennifer Aniston fan. I think she's like the most overrated, looks person wise, the
My
most
wife
over. What's
text,
that?
my wife just texted me and said, because she's a huge Mark Wahlberg fan. She said he had long hair in Daddy's Home.
Okay, all right. I will have to check that out. Okay, so maybe I will check that out. But like I said, I remember what Rockstar. I do remember it. That was Zach Wilde was in it. I do remember it. But I just Jennifer Aniston. I am just not a big fan of. But it's not about Jennifer Aniston tonight. I'm not a big fan of her. I'm just not. There's other women I like more, but it's not about me. It's about Redemption Championship Wrestling, who I really, really like. And I want to now give you the floor, sir. I want to give you some comments. I want you to slay here with your final words. I want people to see red by plugging your social media, saying anything else you want to the audience. I present it over to you with the floor. Fire away, my friend. Fire, and the floor is yours.
We are independent wrestling, and all we ask is that you support independent wrestling. Independent wrestling is, again, where you can really have those moments up close where you're not in the nosebleed seat. It's right there in your.
This is where we build storylines. This is where, to me, wrestling lives. This is why I always enjoy independent wrestling. There's been no, I want to say it here. I'm not going to sound too cocky. I'll bring back to your closing thoughts. There is nobody that has done more in covering wrestling of all sorts in the last 5 years than Tom Bryce. So go ahead. Floor is yours.
Your favorite wrestler that you see on TV right now at one point was probably in the position that I'm in, scratching and clawing to get to that place.
Mm-hmm.
Just recently got on Pro Wrestling Tees. So not only is Sinnick on Pro Wrestling Tees, all you have to do is type in the search bar Sinnick. But if you go on Pro Wrestling Tees, you can get a Sinnick Redemption Championship Wrestling shirt. So you'll kind of have the best of both worlds. You'll have the brand new company's logo on that shirt, and you'll have the logo of the man who is going to win the main event with his tag team partner, Venom, at RCR inauguration.
Well, we'll have to find out, but I know one thing in the meantime. If you want to follow Cynic one more time, I've put the link here below. That is on Twitter at Deceased Vessel, Instagram, Cynic X. Also, he is on YouTube as well. He is on Facebook. Message him on his personal page. And one more time, I want to put out there the link for Redemption Championship Wrestling. You can do that again. Very simple. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Redemption Championship Wrestling. TikTok, Redemption Wrestling. TikTok's the one thing I still haven't figured out yet. I've got all the other platforms. I've even got LinkedIn because I can't believe I'm saying this on the air. I do have a background in politics, which is how I make the big bucks. And I have my LinkedIn out there, which I sometimes post my shows on there, but I don't have TikTok. I should probably do TikTok. Maybe we'll see in the next few days I do that. But certainly in the meantime, support Redemption Championship Wrestling, and especially our guest tonight, Cynic himself, who is going to be in the main event. He is going to be teaming alongside Venom against ASAP and Baby Lotion Brown. It is going to be a main event you will not want to miss. It'll be Ireton Enterprises again versus Legion, technically another promotion. It'll be Cynic and Venom. And you'll also see, speaking of Ireton, Mr. Moses Ireton will be out there against Ecstatic. And we heard from Mr. Ireton's opponent here a little while ago. So a lot to offer. It's a great card. We have a lot of things to talk about here in the future. And I can't wait to do all of it. My friend, congratulations on the upcoming show this Saturday. I can't thank you enough for this opportunity. I look forward to recapping the show with you in the future of the company in the coming weeks. Knock 'em dead, kid, as Vince Neil of Motley Crue famously sang.
Hell
I
yeah.
have no doubt you will slay it. And we look forward to the future of this company. North Carolina, like I said, just got a whole lot bigger and a whole lot busier in the world of professional wrestling. And I can't thank you enough for the opportunity, my friend.
And thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Cynic here of the new company Redemption Championship Wrestling. And he was here to talk about the entire card as an action-packed card. If there was ever an action-packed card, this was definitely it. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling here to talk about Redemption Championship Wrestling. One more time, their inauguration show this Saturday in North Carolina. It's got a great show. Many friends are a part of it. Zach Daniels, Aaron Jones, Luca Daniels, Tyler Aiken, Moses Ireton. I know Cynic's going to kill me for keep saying that, but Cynic himself is also a part of it. You've got Ecstatic. You've got so many other people here, and we cannot thank enough the company for this great opportunity. But if you're on sportnarium.com/player, you're going to go back to your regularly scheduled programming. If you're on YouTube and Twitter, I'll be back Thursday night. Chris Jones of EBW to join us. Until then, good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. And the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio. And thank you, everybody, once again.